Obviously keep pushing towards our preparation here for Buffalo. And as we kind of get into today a little bit of what our weekly preparation would be as far as the red area, when we get to an opponents as we kind of work towards the week. A little bit of a short week here as we've had it structured, but similar flow to practice. We'll get some individual periods early. Still doing some, obviously, offense versus defense, competitive periods that we need to see. We need to be able to go out and have those evaluation periods. We had some one-on-ones yesterday. That were just another opportunity for us to, see those individual position battles and get an opportunity to see that, which was great. And then, continuing to work, like I said, towards Buffalo. So a little bit of a review of third down, which we started yesterday, combine that with the early down stuff, and then today would be the red area from that standpoint there. Some situational football here as we get towards the end of practice would be some 2-minute competitive practices periods against each other. So just, kind of trying to get the mindset flipped into getting ready for an opponent. Good meetings this morning as far as studying and understanding who their players are, what they do from a scheme standpoint. And, I think the trick for us this week is really for the players to get into the mindset of what it's like to, to study for a team, understand the players they're going against. And then as we push closer to the game, go for more of those cut up type of reels or cut up type of tapes that they watch, and then obviously push into more game tape and then go with the game plan calls and the communication that we have set up, and then start to work the the mental part of the game as we get closer. So just a good, real kind of practice for us from that standpoint. So go out, practice hard today, and then get ready for the game here for the next 2 days.
Coach, you're getting to a point where raster decisions and all that are going to be made. I'm just curious about with younger players like maybe Ty Johnson or undrafted free agent like Ben Benshaw. How much do you look at their potential that they're showing when it comes into that, as opposed to maybe a veteran?
Sure.
Just going forward.
It's probably a good observation too. I would say in general, sometimes with the young players, you try to project where they're going to be maybe in October or November, as far as where they are right now. They understand that they're coming into things a couple months behind, even just if you look at it from a 1-year standpoint of what the team is trying to do, maybe a couple months behind because of the process they go through with the draft and free agency and all the rest of it by the time they get here. So from that standpoint, you are trying to do a good job of projecting where they'd be. But in the end, you're going to try to go with whatever's best for your team at the time to try to, help you, to give you chances to go win, however it unfolds itself out. I think the thing for us, especially with young players, though, there's still a lot of time left for training camp as we go through. We have to do, our due diligence and take our time to evaluate these guys because certainly there's going to be improvement by some players on the roster here over the next couple of weeks, and that's going to be critically important for us to see some of that consistency and right up until the time where we try to decide who is going to be on the team to help us in those categories. So we want to make sure that we're not doing any evaluations too soon, too early in those particular cases, and give it its full kind of length as we go through it.
Just wondering if you got any clarification, or I guess if you could provide us any clarification on the 2 penalties you had in the game, the one on O'Day, whatever it was, and then the one on the crackback on TJ Hawkinson too.
Yep. Good question. We're working through some of that stuff. One of them is obviously, look, there's safety issues that we're trying to make sure that we're coaching them the right way. The one is, is in regards to going back with O'Day and making sure how close you are to the line of scrimmage. There is a limit to how far you can do some of that. So we're working to get clear clarification on that ourselves, but something that we're in contact with, Al Riveron and his office, and trying to make sure that we're coaching it the right way. So, and some of the crews that we work with every single week, those are the questions that we have to ask. We go over that stuff in the pregame meeting with the officials. We actually had those guys through the course of the week last week, which was good. We covered a lot of different things. I think some of the conversations have been centered around DPI and OPI from that instant mostly, but there are some other modifications of the rules that, we are still working through, and I think the crews are too. So that would be where we're at with that.
When our officials are here, how often do you meet with them? How long do you meet with them?
You know what? So when the officials were here, I'll just speak to that because it's a little bit easier than when we're on the road in the hotel, from that standpoint. But we actually we meet with the officials. We actually invite them in to our meetings. I think it's always good for the officials to come in and let the players ask questions. If there's something that maybe happened in practice or something they don't understand, to get it from the official themselves as far as the interpretation of what they're looking for and kind of how they see the game. I think it's important for our guys to understand where the officials are set up on the field. What are the different areas that they have to look at and why, and what are the views and the angles that those guys see the different plays at. So that's important too. And a lot of times, like I said, when those guys were here, it'd be up until or even after dinner, where they're in the meetings, so we practice in the morning, but they're here all day. And we're going to bring them into the meeting rooms and sit down and go through tape with them too, just to see if there are any, confusing plays that came up.
Pretty good competition there at returner. I'm just curious how you go about evaluating something like that when you're not tackling to the ground and stuff like that.
Yeah.
In practice, does that put more premium on the preseason games, and how do you go about evaluating something?
Yeah, good question. I mean, I think a lot of it too is it does put some pretty big value into the preseason games for those positions, and I think special teams in general, and I think I've kind of mentioned before, it's really hard to get a feel for the speed of special teams during a game in practice. You don't get this; it's just not the same. Now you're evaluating the skill set, you're evaluating the players, around it, and you have a general idea of some of those guys that are returners back there and what they can do with the ball in their hands. A lot of it is based on what previous work they've done, but you can still see, even though we're in a situation where you might not be tackling to the ground, their quickness, their vision, their ability to accelerate and explode and burst and be able to make some plays. So you are evaluating that in practice, but the game stuff is pretty critical.
Matt, I know yesterday you said you didn't know or would tell us if Stafford would play on Friday. Does a day of practice, extra day of practice, provide any clarity for you? Will he play on Friday?
Yeah. I think I'm probably in the same spot I was yesterday with it. We'll go out and we'll get another good day of practice and just keep preparing. I think the biggest thing for us right now is honestly everybody is preparing like they should. Like we have to go play a game, and it's the only way to go through those mental reps to get ready to go.
And a secret, like why it is a preseason game, why you can't tell us.
Yeah.
Other coaches have kind of told people who they're.
Yeah, I'm definitely not worried about what other coaches are doing with that aspect of it. And I think for us, it's just important, for us to do what's best for our team, and our players. And for us to just really go slow with it day by day as far as that's concerned and get ready to go. Obviously, it'd be different if it was in season and, you're trying to prepare and do all that stuff on a more specific nature. But for us, it's really just the process of going day by day, and we'll see where we are when we get to the game.
You did mention that, pitch count's really not a factor with Matthew, but is there something to maybe like a hit count? The less hits he takes in the preseason, maybe the better his body will be to start the season and even run down toward the end of the season?
I don't know. I don't really know because, I think in those situations, those guys get hit all the time, and it's part of the nature of the business of the position, and you never really know what hit is going to be different than the next hit, from that standpoint. So for us, it's really just about the preparation and doing what we're supposed to do, and just making sure that we're putting everybody in the right position, and taking care of them too is part of it. It's part of everybody on the team to evaluate everybody where they're at so that we can get ready to go when the season starts.
Coach, another rules question. There were a couple of challenge flags almost back to back on the pass interference. Have you gotten a better feel for how maybe they're going to call that?
Good question, and I would say I don't know if I have a better feel, but I think they've been consistent in what they're doing right now. I would say yes from that standpoint, which is good. I think a lot of it is for all of the coaches. Sometimes we're challenging ones that we know probably aren't challengeable in those situations, but we just want to see the consistency from that standpoint. I think what's great is we got 2 more weeks of preseason games to hopefully get enough challenges out there and put a big, cut up together of all of them and take a look and see where the league was with all of it so that we have a good idea going into the season.
That includes other teams then challenging too, not just your own?
Yeah, we're definitely going to look at all of them. We have to look at everybody and just kind of see, how it's all being interpreted. But I think I would say, from my end right now, going through all of it right now, it's for the most part been pretty great.
For the special teams question, so just in terms of like your core special teams players, what's the top trait or two you're looking for in guys? Is it speed, fearlessness? Like what do you sort of really value that makes a good special teams player?
It's probably different by position within special teams, within the core group, because they're all very different from that standpoint. Special teams is a lot of matchups from that aspect of it. So you're looking for certain body types. Within those body types are going to be things like quickness, long speed, ability to hand fight, ability to run downfield in space and play with speed and quickness in space, and it's just a much different game. When I think you evaluate a linebacker, or you evaluate a running back, or you evaluate somebody that's kind of in the box all the time, there's a lot of action that moves in front of those guys very quickly, but they can kind of just dissect it and go and see it all at one time. Special teams is different because there's a lot of action going throughout the entire course of the field, and that vision is really important for guys to understand what leverage points they have, what the spacing of the plays are in those situations. So we definitely try to evaluate that. That would be one that would carry over all those groups. But certainly, you're trying to find the skill set of the guys where the game is more special teams wise becoming speed and space that, can handle those two areas really well.
Coach, do you enjoy the mystery? Because it seems that, we're not getting anything out of, don't know if Stafford's going to play.
Sure.
We don't know anything else. You enjoy that.
I enjoy that. That's a good question. I don't know if I really enjoy it. I guess it's probably just the truth, to be honest with you. I mean, we're really we take it slow. I know sometimes it's easy to try to get the big picture and the overview and say, hey, this is where we're going to be in 3 months, but nobody knows. And I think, when you do that, and the way that I believe is that you just set yourself up for maybe a right turn that you're not expecting, or something that is not going to be there, or something that's going to change. And everything changes in this game all the time, whether it's players or teams or, whatever it is scheme wise. And I think if you just try to do it in that sort of broad stroke manner, you're just going to have to adjust. And for us, I'd rather just adjust by the day than try to adjust a grand overall concept, if that makes any sense. So it's nothing other than that, really, to be honest with you.